Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Java. Thank you for joining me, and happy Friday to you all. It's September 15th, 2023. Let's get into the markets. Quite a bit going on right now. We are clearly in a high risk area right now. We've got the MMRI as a favorite risk indicator above the 280 level. So we are really getting towards that 300 pretty rapidly. But we've got the dollar relative strength is down. And that means that the prices of everything else in relative will go up. So we've got green markets. They rallied yesterday after the inflation data. And then we've also got the 10-year yield is above the 4.3 area now. And they're talking about higher for longer as far as the interest rates. So with the markets, we did see the volatility index drop, which is basically kind of a fear gauge. And we're watching some surprising strength in first gold and some not so surprising strength in oil as we're watching the continued restriction in supplies. So, got another thing for today. Today is the triple witching that they call when we're having convergent um, options expiry dates. So, I wanted to share in case some of you traders, if you don't know, there is a site called Max Pain. And this is the website here. Basically, what this is when your options are expiring or coming upon them, the job of the market makers is to get the most money possible. And so they chase these premiums. So we can expect a lot of volatility towards the end of the day because the number of people, retail investors, going into what we call 0 day to expiration options, which are leveraged at 100 times, are at record high. So basically, we've got that due to close today. And with the market makers are going to try to bounce out both the longs and the shorts, there's going to be a lot of money to be made this afternoon. So if you want to check out this site, you've got a particular ticker that you've got an option on. It's just kind of fun to look at. And you can use it as a guideline for kind of where they're looking at targeting those price levels. So let's move on to our news. It did rally yesterday. The Dow seeing the best day in 5 weeks because of that economic data. Do I believe this is going to last? No, we're due for a pullback. We're due for, as they say, max pain. But however, they can continue to rally today. And I do expect the volatility towards the end of the day as they begin closing these option positions. So we've also got some information on the Treasury yields rising. We've got our calendar today. We're expecting basically industrial production and US import prices. So I don't know that these will necessarily move the market as much as the other information and news that we're getting. We did get the UAW contract broke down, so they are going to go on strike. So that's going to affect three of the big auto manufacturers and maybe have some sympathy plays there. So going into our oil and energy, we know that oil will continue to go up. It could have a pullback, but we've got some issues with the supply. And so the first one I want to bring up was Libya, saying their oil production remains unaffected. So that's kind of less fear to the supply, if you will, even though Russia constricting supply as well as Saudi. And we're talking about oil just hitting the highest level of the year. So quick note on this, unrelated to the oil, if you're one to keep them in their thoughts or perhaps say prayers, there are over 10,000 people that have lost their lives in these floods. So it's kind of terrible, just to mention that. Okay, so we've got another. This is regarding the supply as well. If we get a short in the supply, or not a short in the supply, but a short in the delivery, there's plenty of oil, but if they restrict the supply, going to shoot that price up, and that also will increase, as you know, inflation. If you're new here, you can watch one of the other videos or leave a comment below. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help answer those. Okay, in the real estate sector, we've got Robert Kiyosaki. He authored Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he's kind of a big businessman in the real estate sector. And he's agreeing as well that Airbnb is set to spark a real estate market crash. So we've got a convergence story that I have not touched on, and it's because this is the new kind of paradigm that companies are going towards. They're forcing people to go back to work in the office. And so during the pandemic, when everybody was able to work from home, they sold their homes where they were in expensive areas and kind of moved either better locations to live, more rural, or less expensive. Well, now if they have to go back, they're going to have to make that decision of keeping their jobs or moving. So they're going to have to sell. I think that inventory will be coming on the market as well. So we've got Lennar's earnings. They were positive, saying the demand for new homes is strong, but this is a lagging indicator. As we were talking about this before, we expected this on the new home front, and they always kind of don't go into the story. So the reality is that they're talking about existing home sales 27% lower than a year ago this time. So that is the real numbers. So what happened was all of these builders have been giving large incentives just to purchase these homes that they are building to kind of sell what they've got because they had a rush in inventory and they know that prices are going down. So now that this has happened, I expect these numbers to come in at the next report will be much lower. We'll see. On banks and inflation, we've got that wholesale inflation surging more than expected, more than they expected, not more than we expected. We knew with the price of oil and everything else going on that inflation's got nowhere to go but up at the moment. So the other side, we've got Lagarde repeating the ECB isn't discussing interest rate cuts. Well, I still think they're all looking at the lockstep 25-point hike. We'll see what the Federal Reserve does next week, and that could be a potential market mover. If you haven't liked the video yet, but you actually do, please click like. I would really appreciate that. It would really help this news get out to others. Okay, so I want to move on to our stories about trade wars and trade in general, what's going on a little bit more globally, which does have an effect on our markets and prices. So I am kind of a macro view. I believe in looking at the larger factors that are not only affecting our markets, but everything about our daily lives. And it has done nothing but expand. So we have to watch these alliances. So in this one block right here, it kind of sums it up. We've got the Chinese premier. They are looking to strengthen ties with Venezuela, another large oil producer, and they've also got other resources, mining precious metals. We've got the also meeting with Cambodia. Cambodia is notorious for raw materials and then also inexpensive labor sector for production. And then we've got China willing to advance the global transition to green energy because they've got a lot of the source material that is needed for these transitions to whether it's solar panels or more. So, and then we've got they're kind of pulling their strong arm. They're going to impose sanctions back on a couple of US companies over the sales of arms to Taiwan. Got another story going on with this in a bit. Okay. So this article, I think it's kind of summing up what we're facing. We've got a top currency economist pointing to accelerated pace of de-dollarization. And this is just basically the teaming up of these BRICS nations and using less of the dollars. And this was all triggered by America freezing Russia's dollar reserves. So that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back and kind of the downfall. Got another short update I wanted to give you. Vietnam's economy. This is an up and coming, in my view, and we should be watching this. A few economists are saying the stock is not because they've still got some, basically some government issues going on, but they are growing and up and coming. And I think the next one, even Biden is kind of visiting the area. We need to watch this for ties as well. So moving on to the last section in our lava updates. This is the story I was talking about, is that China is releasing the blueprint for integrating with Taiwan. So they're basically not giving a choice about this. They're just moving forward. They're basically offering housing and other things in order to just kind of assuming that's their country. And this is kind of par for the course for how China acts. They just redraw maps as they please and include other countries and kind of go on with their day. So we'll see how that works out. They did come out with this story saying that the US is using Ukraine as an electronic warfare testing ground. Well, that's kind of a given, and the United States is notorious for this, using others as kind of their testing grounds because we don't want to do it with ourselves, and use it as we collect knowledge from this and then go on from there. But I just think it's interesting that they actually posted that. So, with this, I wish you all a great trading day, just a wonderful day in general. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.